All right, let's get right into it. Today we are breaking down an absolutely fascinating and, frankly, chilling dialogue. We're going to look at the philosophies of two cosmic world-ending entities and see how they're completely opposite methods. We're talking brute force annihilation versus a kind of willing spiritual surrender come together to create a terrifyingly perfect apocalypse. So right off the bat, the scene is set, and it is incredible. A high, obsidian balcony on the dark side of the moon. This isn't just some casual meeting, you know? This is a cosmic construction site. It's where the grand architecture, this master plan for a total universal rewrite, is actually starting to take physical shape. And it's a plan so huge it requires taking an entire world apart piece by piece. Okay, so first up, let's meet one of the two figures on this balcony, the Sapphire Jester. I mean, his title alone, the Engineer of Zero, pretty much tells you everything you need to know. His whole philosophy is built on one thing: total physical annihilation. And what's so wild is that the Jester doesn't see himself as evil, right? He sees himself as a necessary part of the grand architecture. He's not driven by hate or malice, but by function, by purpose. He's the cosmic engineer, and his job is to provide absolute erasure by sheer brute force, literally turning an entire world into raw material for his master's big design. So you might be wondering, how does he actually do all this? Well, the source says his robes are pulsing with a Z-pinch core that hums like a dying star. Now, a Z-pinch is a real concept from plasma physics, but here it basically means he's wielding an insane, crushing force. He's got the power of a star, harnessed to do his loud and crude work of just tearing the universe apart. So his job description is pretty clear, and it is intense. He's not just a destroyer, he's a provider. He turns mountains into gas. He turns people, who are called strivers because they dare to resist, into fuel for his furnace. He's the one literally building the physical wall of this silent city, providing the mortar. He is the raw power that brings about a final molecular end. Okay, so that's the Jester. Now let's turn to the other guy on the balcony, the unholy Moon King, because his approach is a stark and honestly a much more chilling contrast. If the Jester is all about wiping things out physically, the Moon King, he's all about spiritual corruption. Man, this line is just incredible. Where the Jester looks at a soul and sees fuel for his furnace, the Moon King sees something to be, well, perfected. He's like an alchemist of despair. He doesn't want to just burn a soul's energy. He wants to capture that one precise moment of its spiritual surrender, that eclipse, as he calls it, where all hope finally dies and just accepts the darkness. And this is where the horrifying difference in their methods just slaps you in the face. The Jester vaporizes, the Moon King transmutes. He takes the very core of a being, their spark of reason, and twists it into this stuff called shadow matter. He's turning their consciousness into a monument of their own defeat, creating these eternal, willing servants for their new world. So the Moon King's function is all about atmosphere. He provides the shadow that gives the Jester's big physical wall its meaning, its depth. He's creating the population for this new, dark world, out of the ashes of the old one's will. He doesn't just bring an end, he brings what he calls the perfection of the fall. So this brings us to the big question, right? The core of their whole conversation. How can these two completely opposite methods, brute force destruction on one hand and subtle spiritual corruption on the other, how can they possibly serve the same ultimate goal? How do these two pieces fit together? This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. Look at this. On one side, you have the Jester. He's the hammer. He brings absolute erasure with the raw heat of the furnace. He brings the end. And then on the other side, you've got the Moon King. He's the alchemist. He performs spiritual transmutation with the cold, weightless silver of the grave. He brings the perfection of the fall. They're two totally different, but, as we're about to see, perfectly complementary paths to oblivion. And if that wasn't clear enough, the source material gives us this fantastic analogy that just perfectly explains how these two forces aren't just compatible, they're actually essential to one another. Okay, so think of it like this. The Jester in the mason. He's the guy hauling the heavy stones, mixing the mortar, building this huge, physical, windowless prison. He does all the heavy lifting. But without the Moon King, it's just a big, empty room. The Moon King is the architect of shadows. He's the one who comes inside, blows out every single candle, and paints the walls with a blackness so absolute it feels infinite. One builds the structure of despair, the other fills it with the feeling of despair. And once they have this understanding, this mutual aha moment about their roles, that's it. The debate is over. They're no longer rivals arguing about methods. They are partners, ready to execute the final stage of their plan. So the Jester steps up first. He commits his ultimate tool, that pinch from his Z-pinch core. That's the final, overwhelming act of physical destruction. It's the force that's going to crush any remaining physical opposition, breaking the bodies and the cities of anyone who still dares to fight. And right on cue, the Moon King makes his own corresponding promise. He's going to provide the lunar shadow, which is this overwhelming wave of spiritual despair designed to completely wipe out the will to even try to fight back. It's the final killing blow to the soul of the universe. And this is the truly terrifying result of their little partnership. This is the synthesis of their work. The Moon King's spiritual corruption doesn't just create servants. It creates beings who actively desire the physical annihilation that the Jester provides. They make the universe literally beg for its own end. And that's what we're left with, this really haunting question. The Jester's forge provides the physical end, and the Moon King's shadow provides the psychological reason for it. I mean, it's one thing to be destroyed against your will, but what does it truly mean when the very fabric of existence is manipulated into wanting to be destroyed? That, right there, is the perfected nullity they're trying to create.